Hey everyone, welcome back, and today let's solve Leetcode problem 2154 titled Keep Multiplying Found Values by 2. So we're given an integer array nums, and we're essentially just also given an integer original, and that input original is the first number that we start with and that we have to first use to search for in nums, right? And we have to essentially perform the following steps where if we can actually find the original value in the input array nums, we then multiply it by 2 and we keep going with that process as long as we keep finding the number times 2 in the input array nums. Once we don't find the original in the input array nums anymore, we stop multiplying it by 2 and we essentially just return that final value of whatever it is, right? So to kind of just quickly gloss over the examples here, because this really shouldn't be that long of a solution, and it's a pretty straightforward problem. Here in example 1, we're given an input array nums to be 5, 3, 6, 1, 12, and our original is 3. What this really means is we originally start with a value of 3, and as long as the original is in our input array nums, we multiply it by 2 and check if that resulting value is also in the input array nums. And we keep doing this until our resulting value is no longer in our input array nums, meaning while our original is no longer in our input array nums. And once it's not, we simply just return the value that original was. So as you can see here, we start at original equals 3. While original is in nums, we're going to keep going. Notice how I'm kind of forming a pattern here. So 3 times 2, 6. 6 is in nums. Again, keep going. Multiply by 2, 12. 12 times 2, 12 is in nums. That's cool. Now multiply by 2. 12 times 2, 24. 24 is not in nums. Since original is no longer in nums, we break out of our kind of loop, if you will, and simply return our original kind of final value, which would be that value of 24. Applying the same logic to example 2 here, notice how our original value isn't even initially in the input array nums. So we can't even perform the operation even once. We immediately just return what our original value is, and in this case, that is a value of 4. Right, so for the constraints here, we see that we actually have rather small inputs. Our length of the input array nums is going to be between 1 and 1,000, and any value in the input array nums, including the original input, is going to be between 1 and 1,000 as well. Which brings us to key kind of main observations to really solve, or kind of look for and make to solve this problem efficiently, and that really is, this is a classic Leetcode easy, right? We're given a very, straightforward kind of task or description, and we quite literally just have to simulate what the requirements tell us to do, right? The requirements are essentially kind of like mini or pseudo code, and we just have to turn this into actual code. And I also talked about the pseudocode part of this solution while talking about the example 1 as well. Essentially, we start with our original, and while our original is in the input array nums, we can kind of multiply it by 2, and once it's no longer in that loop, once it's no longer in the input array nums, we stop performing the operation of multiplying by 2 and return that original value to whatever it ends up being after all those operations. And that is exactly how we're going to solve this problem in terms of software as well, right? So essentially, again, the main loop condition is while, using a while loop here, the original is in our input array nums, meaning while we still actually can't find it in our input, we're going to keep performing the operation of multiplying it by 2. So original, I don't know why I can't spell original today, times equals 2. Now, once we break out of this loop, that means original is no longer in the input array nums. We simply return the final value of original, whatever it may be, after performing all those operations until it's no longer in our input. And so this is actually it, right? Very straightforward. This is the, kind of entirety of the solution here. And as you can see, this really is just about as efficient as you can get it to be. Now to kind of quickly gloss over the complexity here, the reason why this is actually linear and not big O of 1 is because worst case, original times 2 could always be in the input array nums until the very last element. And if that's the case, well then we'd actually go through every single element in the input array nums. And so worst case, we actually go through every element in the input. And so this is actually going to be a linear or big O of n runtime complexity. And for our memory or space complexity, it's actually just constant. We're not actually using any extra data structures or any auxiliary memory. We're only working with our original input integer original and our original input nums. And so we're not actually going to use any extra memory that scales linearly with our input. And so this is actually a big O of 1 or a constant time memory complexity, right? So again, we're essentially just starting with original. While it's in nums, we perform the operation of multiplying it by 2. While that resulting value of multiplying it by 2 is no longer in nums, we break out of the loop and return the final value of our original, whatever that may be after applying the number of operations while it's still in our input, right? So if you guys enjoyed this solution and learned something new, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And without further ado, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.